Open your boxes. Open your boxes. 1, 2, 3.
Yo, it's pictures from the book
This is the voice of reason. I'm Baby Oprah. Voice of reason. Voice of reason. How y'all doing out here tonight? Okay, welcome to another episode of The Voice of Reason. I'm your host, Kadi, also known as Baby Oprah. And of course, I have a special episode for you guys today. And I also have a special guest / co-host. I have Cocoa Simone. She is a serial entrepreneur.
Yes.
Which I love that, because in this day and age, the way these bills are set up, you cannot have one line of income. You cannot be stagnant in one role. You have to be a jack of all trades. And I feel like millennials, we just live in a day and age where we could just like do so much at once. You don't have to be limited to one title. Now, I have you on the show today because I enjoy your Mogul Mondays. Like, so she does something. I don't know if you want to talk more about it.
It's good to hear somebody else talk about it, and I'll like pitch into
So she does this thing on Instagram called Mogul Mondays, and she has a huge presence on Instagram. But what I love about your Mogul Mondays is basically intimate conversations that you have with your followers,
right, about
topics that, similar to this podcast, topics that really affects everyone, but there's never, we just don't talk about it.
Right.
And one topic that you brought up was toxicness.
Yes.
And I'm like, I gotta bring this girl on so we could talk about it, because I think toxic is one of the words that we feel like was very overused in this day and age. But it became so overused that I don't think we really sit down and understand like what is toxicness. Like nowadays we call anything toxic.
Like, this is toxic, that's toxic.
You're toxic. It's like a spell now.
Yeah.
Like soon someone tell you you're toxic, you might not even know what the heck that means.
It's like, what is toxic now?
Nobody wants toxicness. No one wants to be toxic, but do we know what it is? And the way you broke it down in your video and how we're about to break it down in this episode made me come to the realization, in some way we're all toxic. And of course, in a lot of ways we all experience toxicness. So I want to kind of really dive into the different ways in how toxicness can come about.
Right.
So before we get into outside situations, for yourself, what is when it comes to toxicness, where do you feel like you stand, or what are some of the experiences that you think of in the way that you were toxic?
In the way that I was toxic.
Yeah.
So I've gone through an experience where I was draining to somebody. Mm-hmm. Like, somebody has expressed to me, a lot of times you're inconsiderate. I feel like you're selfish. Mm-hmm. I feel like, you just take up all the time and you just consume so much of my energy. You don't realize the people that's around you, how much it's affecting you. Because it's always about you, mm-hmm. what you got going on, how you feel, if you're depressed, if you're emotional. But it's like, all right, well, everybody else in the room too feels some type of way.
Right.
We all going through our own stuff, but it's always about you.
Right.
So that was kind of my main thing, and that was people that was really, really close to me.
Mm.
So it hit me hard.
You always preaching.
It hit me hard.
Yeah.
To have people that, you think you're being the best version of yourself too,
and you want to
giving
be.
your all, and it's also wanting to be, the shoulder to lean on, the person that they can go to, and to come to a understanding that you're not necessarily that image to them. It breaks you down.
Yes. Oh my God! Like,
it breaks you down.
That has been my life this week, and oh my God, like, just in the way that you put it, I feel like for me, being toxic, and something that I'm still working on, is that I have a habit of feeling like things should be the way I look at it.
Yes.
And because I think everyone should think like me, I assume everyone thinks like me, I assume that everyone looks at a situation the way I look at it, it makes me discredit other people's experience.
Right.
And it took a long time, because like you said, I think if we could, I know toxicness have a definition in the dictionary, but if I could define it, I would say toxicness, I feel like toxicness is really a place of being controlling. Like, controlling in the sense that you feel like things are supposed to revolve around you, things are supposed to, and when you move with that type of intent in your mind, like, everything is from my perspective, you start to become toxic around other people because that's not their experience, and you're forcing them to feel like it is.
Your energy, your demeanor, how you go about everything, how you speak, your tone of voice, all of that can be controlling. And you don't realize that because you're so passionate about how you feel.
Right.
That you don't realize everyone around you can't handle you being so strong-minded the way that you are.
Right.
I need to ask you, what's your sign?
Sagittarius. So.
Ooh, I'm a Capricorn. So I feel you.
Listen, first of all, just a quick plug. I downloaded this app my coworker put me on to called The Pattern, and it's a breakdown of your birth chart. But it was breaking me down, and one of the main traits it said was stubbornness and boldness. Whereas like how I see things, I become blind to other people's experience and sensitive to other people's experience because I'm so passionate and bold about the way I go about things. Yeah. So. It was a hard pill to swallow, but then it's also difficult a lot of times to step outside of yourself and see things, not even see things, but understand things from a perspective that's not yours.
Yes.
Because it's like our experiences is what make up our thought process. So for me, I feel like, I'm strong and bold in my thoughts because I'm being truthful. Like I always say I'm not afraid of confrontation because I know what my intent. I move with intent. So if I know I could stand on anything I do. Anything I do, I'm not saying I'm perfect, but when I do something, I be ready to stand on it because it comes from a place of no, I'm being true to myself. Passion. I'm not passionate. Yeah. But I realize, and oddly enough, oftentimes you usually attract people who are the opposite of you because it's kind of what you thirst for. Exactly. It's like I was forced in a situation or in the upbringing where I had to be strong, where I had to be bold, where I had to have a voice. And most black women, we grow up in those, like we are forced in those situations. Growing up in a culture where we're constantly belittled and overlooked. Yes. A lot of us have this syndrome of being bold and aggressive. But then I often attract people who are the opposite, especially in friendships. So to me, when someone is not able to be bold and stand on their own, it's almost like then you're wrong and you're secretive. Like why if you feel like when I would confront someone on something and they're not able to defend themselves or be in boldness and they become small, it's almost like, well, that means you're a liar and that means you're sneaky and that means I'm right and you're wrong. And it's like a lot of people have experiences that make them small or make them react. Just like we have it's a defense mechanism. We all are walking defense mechanisms. Yes. No one is just perfect or no one is just like moving the way they move because it's right. We're all walking defense mechanism. Just like our boldness is our defense mechanism. If we connect it back to our childhood, sometimes people inability to be as strong or insecurity is their defense mecanism. And trying to find that middle understanding line is so hard for me. It's I can be like, of course the experiences always lead to, okay, we have a disagreement and then I'm being bold and this person's being, and then we apologize and move forward. But honestly, I still don't be understanding. Like I don't be getting like,
and that's the issue.
Yes,
that's the issue.
How do I fix it?
The fact that we can have multiple situations where we're feeling some way about something, whoever we're speaking to about it disagrees. But it's just like, all right, okay, cool. Let's just push it under the rug and just forget about it. Be cool now? All right, cool. Yeah. Rather than actually speaking about the situation, breaking down what the actual issue is, speaking on it, and understanding both sides of it. Because it's one thing to completely disagree with somebody, not understand where they're coming from. But then there's also a way of understanding where they're coming from. You may not agree with them 100%, but at least understand where they're coming from.
Right. But that's a step. Yeah, that is true. And to understand where people come from is to understand their experience. And I feel like a lot of times once there's a title in a relationship, whether it's like you're my friend, you're my lover, you're my this, I feel like us as millennials, we have this toxic trait of thinking relationships mean you possess this person. Yeah. So once there's a title to a relationship, there's a set of expectations that you have, whereas like we're all individual spirits and people moving. The only like reason for relationships is to go through journeys individually but together.
Yes.
Like, you know what I'm saying? There's no one is, God didn't create you to be such and such girlfriend. God did not create you to be such and such situation. God created you to be you.
Yes.
No one owns you. You don't have no rules. And granted, we live in this world where like, okay, work, your boss own you. No one owns no one. So these expectations I feel like we have when it comes to the titles of people in our life, it's toxic.
Yeah.
I had to have a conversation with a friend about that because it was like, we have things like this where it's like, if I don't like this person, you don't like them. If I don't, and it's like, I have my own principles. Like, of course, like if someone disrespects my friend or if you do something negative, I'll not want to be around you, but not necessarily because this is my friend and this is my territory, and it's because of the principles I stand on. If you can harm, you can physically or emotionally truly disrespect someone I love, I don't respect that. Or someone I don't love. I don't like negative people, period.
Yeah.
But like there was an instance where a friend of mine was like, she felt like this girl was being shady to her, but there was no real clear like shade. Like, you know what I'm saying? It was clearly like, okay, clearly. And I'm like, I always say I'm not a girly girl. I grew up with my dad, and I'm really like, so I feel like, I hate to say this, but females, I have as much male friends as I do female friends. But one distinction that I noticed, females, because we function off of emotion, there's a sense of pettiness and discomfort in being petty, discomfort in being like, quick to like, we gonna beef. Like, and I hate that. I genuinely hate that. Like, I hate where if me and a girl messing with the same dude, I would rather be like, sis, you can take them than to have a sense of,
I don't want no part.
I'm all about girl code. I'm all about girl code. Like, and I just feel like a lot of times, even if I feel like someone is doing something negative to me, I really would want to get to the bottom of it because I do not feel comfortable with confrontation with women. Honestly, no shade, I'm a straight woman. It makes me feel like it's romantic. Like, I'd rather have beef with my man or have like little emotions about my man, but to have emotions sitting about another female, especially negative, it's not a comfortable thing for me. So because, of course, she came, she visited me. I didn't disagree with her. Yes, that's your experience. Cool. Mm-hmm. But I kind of forgot about it because it wasn't that serious. Like, you ain't tell me girl fought you or nothing. It was just like, oh, we were in the same this. And I feel like she was being funny, but there was never no real communication that there was a problem. Now, moving forward, I went to one of the girls' event because I also knew the girl but from my own experience. You know what I'm saying? Never thinking about the issue that my friend brought up because it was no issue. It was just a feeling you felt, and I just like brushed it off. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, typical girl stuff. Brush it off. And it became this thing like, I feel once I went to the girls' event, she was like, I feel like, you know that I told you that I felt like she was being funny. And that was toxic for me because at first, of course, loyalty is something that I hold in high regards when it comes to relationships. But then I was sitting with myself and I'm like, why does it annoy me that I feel like I have to not like someone because of an assumption you had? It's one thing, like, I would not like someone if they do something to you because I don't like it. But everything has to come from a place of truth for me. Yeah. It has to. I don't care about my relationship. It has to come from a place of truth for me. If my own blood sister comes to me and tell me that she has a problem with someone, if I don't feel like her reason is valid enough, I'm going to be like, no, let's have this conversation. Y'all going to piece it up. If I feel like her reason is valid enough, I'm going to also feel some type of way. But it has to start from a true place of me. But I feel like a lot of relationships and friendships, it comes with a set of expectations that's toxic. Yeah. Because you want to control how you feel like someone should also think because you think that way. That's not friendship. Yeah, absolutely. That's not real relationship.
And just to go back on what I said of how I felt like I was toxic, it's crazy that you bring that up because I myself, when I was at, maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, even when I was back in high school, I was that girl. Mm-hmm. I was that girl. Like, oh, well, she violated me, so why are you friends with her? And I would make the people around me feel like crap. Mm-hmm. It's like, that person made me feel some type of way. So, that person gave me some negative energy. You're supposed to be my friend, so why are you doing that? Why are you friends with this person? Why are you hanging out with them? Why are you taking pictures? Why are you doing... That was just a thing that in my head. Yeah. And even with TV shows, man, the shit that you see on TV is just like, it's brainwashing.
Yeah.
The entertainment that we find entertaining is a whole bunch of stuff that we don't realize that we bring that into our own personal lives.
Right.
Like all these TV shows where girls, grown women, gossiping, arguing, fighting, putting their hands on each other, just all this petty beef. We watch this at such a young age. We don't even realize that many times we bring that into our own lives without even realizing.
Right.
So it wasn't until I had to sit down with myself, because I did lose friends based on how I was acting. So this is how I knew that, okay, yeah, maybe you're the toxic one, girl. So like, check yourself.
Ooh.
And I had to check myself because I'm like, all right, well, I don't have these people in my life anymore because of how I was acting, my attitude. And like I said, I'm a Capricorn. So like, whatever I say goes. And if you feel some type of way, that's your business.
Right.
It ain't got nothing to do with me.
That's some sad shit too.
Yeah, like, no, and I used to really tell myself all the time, like, yeah, like, it's your way or the highway. Whatever that person has to say, that's their business, because how you feel is how you feel.
Right.
You're entitled to feel however you feel. So it wasn't until I had to sit myself down after going through a lot of situations with my friends and family, and I had to understand what loyalty really was, and I had to understand what communication was, and I had to understand what maturity was.
Yeah.
It wasn't until then I had to realize, like, okay, maybe it's just you. Maybe it's just the situations that surround you. You need to realize that you just need to be yourself.
Yeah.
Stick to yourself. Be confident with yourself. Because the only reason why you're displaying these types of emotions to other people and you're upset is because you're not
secure with yourself.
You're not secure with yourself.
Yo, that's so real, and that's the toxicness. I think that
That's
we become
toxic.
so attached. We become so attached to other people's experiences to bring validation into our own. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, it's so many stories. I'm gonna feel so much shade, but I'm gonna try to do that. But there was a situation where I feel like this example doesn't even matter. But I'll say, like I said, there's this level of like, okay, if, for example, I don't like this girl. I need you not to like her too to make me feel validated in the fact that I'm right for not liking her.
The worst way to go about it.
And that's what a lot of people find their relationships off of. Like, you know what I'm saying? I'd be quick to give a disclaimer. I've had incidents where me and a friend will fall out, but it's a group of us. So it's like, okay, it's going to also affect the other friendships. Ask any of my friends, you know, anytime I could, like, get in a moment where I'm cutting this friend off or we not beefing, y'all can do what y'all want.
Yes.
That is always the disclaimer. Even down to the point, feel free not to invite me.
Yes.
Or feel free to take me out the group chat. It's like, I want you to let y'all know whether I'm right or wrong. I'm standing on what I feel on my own. I'm not going to use no one else's experience to validate mine.
Yes.
So I'm always quick to be like, you can hang with them. Like, I'm not trying to rile y'all up to hate this person as well. So that's what I think it is. It's that insecure space.
After a while, you just have to just brush that aside and just realize however you feel is going to be how you feel.
Right.
But you cannot change nobody's mind. You cannot try and force somebody to feel the same way that you do.
Yeah.
And I've had many situations like that I could go on for days, but I needed those situations to happen.
Yeah.
We all need situations to happen for us to realize, okay, this is right and this is wrong. So it wasn't until I was able to have those experiences, have a talk with myself, and just give myself a reality check, like, yo, you're bugging.
Right.
You need to be content with yourself. You need to figure out what you need to do for yourself. Eventually, whatever you do with yourself, those people are going to attract to you.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I went and I actually did that I found my purpose within all of that mess.
Right.
I achieved so much. A lot of doors opened for me because I was no longer giving out that negative energy.
Right.
It was only positive energy. When you go and try and convince somebody that you shouldn't mess with this person, mind you, you've got 24 hours in a day. For you to be trying to tell somebody and waste your time
your energy,
to tell them, that's what you put your energy towards. You wasting your time. 2 hours on the phone with your girlfriend, telling her, oh yeah, like, let's not talk to this girl, and I feel like this. When you could be doing other things. Look at your bag.
Right.
What do you gotta do?
I feel like a toxic trait of mine, but it's also been a blessing, to piggyback of what you said, is I don't, like, a lot of times for me, I'm really big on energy. I function, I create, I get motivation to even get up and throw out the trash based off of my energy.
Absolutely.
So if I experience a situation that drains my energy, whether me and someone get into an argument or I don't like them, I try to remove it from my mind. Like, I don't even deal with the negative part, and the toxic part of it is that a lot of times I suppress so much that I don't, like, I would be so quick to cut a friend off like it doesn't mean anything to me, but in realist, I have this, in reality, I have this defense mechanism where I am able to, like, out of sight, out of mind.
Yes.
Just so I can have a free flowing energy of positivity to function through my day. It's like, I don't feel like sitting in this. Like, I got other stuff that I need to be doing, and me sitting here and being mad about this ain't gonna be it. But I want to talk about, like, in me learning that, I want to talk about, like, what we do when that toxicness is something or someone you can't cut off.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, I used to be like, oh, toxic, easy, snip, 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 snip. But sometimes when you start to get that toxic energy from close relatives or even close friends, that's like, okay, this person has been in my life for X amount of years. I don't feel like right by cutting them off. But then this energy is just...
It's not there. It ain't right.
Right.
I had to learn that history stuff. Listen, man. Leave that alone. We got to come to a point where even if you guys have history, even if y'all been through so much together, you have to preserve your energy for all the right reasons, all the right positive things going on with your life. It doesn't matter how long you've been friends with somebody.
Right.
It don't matter how long this person been ride or die for you. If that energy is not right, how can you progress? How can you move forward? How can you enhance anything else going on in your life if you're going to continue to feed something that's negative for you?
Right. I think that also ties into our possessiveness, where we're equating our existence to people. Yeah. Because of that history, because of that time, we kind of stay in relationships longer than we need to. And it's like, I feel like, and I know for me, my love language is acts of service. So it's like the relationships and the experiences that I have with people, I hold on dear to it, to the point that when a situation reaches a point of toxicness, I'm thinking back on, but in 1988 we used to be sharing the same lunch. You can't cut them off. It's like, it's nothing in the present experience that's making the relationship feel worth the while of keeping, but I'm still harboring, but this person was here for me then. But you have to, I had something I told myself, I had to tell myself over and over, you were a good friend then. Right now, this ain't it. You know what I'm saying? You gotta know, like, I feel like as we evolve, we always say it's good to evolve, it's good to grow, but what we don't realize, what can possibly come with it, is you becoming a person that's no longer compatible to the people that you were compatible to when you were that old person.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you see a lot of people say, like, look at Jay-Z. Jay-Z ain't start leveling up till he made that separation with Roc Nation. You know what I'm saying? And there's no shade to Dame or the other people who are around, but sometimes that evolution requires a new home.
Yeah.
That person requires you're a different person. Yeah.
You're on a whole journey by yourself, and sometimes you need that separation.
Right.
Because there'll be things that you may not even physically be able to see or hear, but it's just energies. Going back to that, people don't really understand the importance of your energy.
Yes.
It's not something to play with.
Yeah.
And people take that lightly. But it wasn't until, like, you really have to go through a real experience to understand. Yeah. You have to preserve your energy. Yeah. It's important. Like, it's so fragile.
And because it's what it controls how you see things. Yeah. Like, me and you could be sitting in the same chair looking the same way. But whatever our energy is, meaning whatever we're harboring internally,
two different things
we see two different things. And it's like, as you're going through life, God ain't just gonna drop the blessings on your lap and say blessing.
No,
a lot of times you gotta work for it, but you also gotta be able to see it.
Yeah.
He's never, he might give you a blessing, but he might not give you the map on how to get there. And a lot of times, if your energy is not right, if how you feel about yourself is not right, if the things, and sometimes my father used to always say, I see everything but themselves. So meaning, and that basically means we can only see based off what we have around us. Mm-hmm. If you're around toxicness, you see your life from a toxic standpoint. If you're around a certain, like, energy, then you start to see, like, from that perspective. And I started becoming very violently aggressive about how I avoid that. Like, because, being Baby Oprah, before I was doing this podcast thing, that was a nickname I gave to myself because of the person I served to my relationships, my friends. I was always the go-to person for advice. I was always the person that people wanted to unpack.
Girl, I'm still that now.
But I started to realize that I'm not perfect. And a lot of like what I use to create my inspiration, my ambition, my motivation comes from the energy I pull around me. Yeah. And I realized a lot of my relationship, there was an uneven exchange. Because it was like you was unpacking on me all your problems, but you wasn't feeling me. So it was like, and even though these, I'm always like, come to me for your advice because they ain't got nothing to do with me. So I'm like, I'm not, it's not personal. It's your life. I'm okay with it. But it's like, no, that comes with energy as well. And it's like, now my energy is drained, but I have days where I need to be filled. And because you're such a pessimistic person on your own life, how do I expect you to fill me with any positivity? You know what I'm saying? So that was a reality fact where I had to be like, it was messed up because I feel like I created a lot of my relationships, my validation in my relationships for being that friend. Yeah. It's like, yeah, you can always come to me about anything. I'm going to solve your problem. I'm going to let you unpack. And that was my validation on, that's what makes me a friend. So when I realized it's like, yo, I can't be that no more. It was like, damn, do that make me a messed up person? Yeah. I don't want to be around this person. I don't want to talk to them about I don't want to answer the phone right now and talk about your issues. I'm dealing with my own stuff. And it's like, a part of me will feel bad in a sense because it's like, that's what I thought was my validation on being a good friend. Yeah. Or a good lover or a good whatever. So, girl.
I know.
It's much.
A lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot. So what do you do when that toxicness is like a relative? Especially someone you really love. Let's say a mom, a dad, a sibling.
Even with me, I had my fair share of that person being toxic to me. Mm-hmm. And I went through a lot of traumatic experiences growing up, and I was exposed to a lot of that because of somebody that was close to me. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's just like a mentality thing or just something that just picks the brain for some reason, his toxicness was a sense of attachment for me. I was attached because that person was such a big figure in my life. Mm-hmm. So as I continued to grow up, all the things that was exposed to me, everything that I had to go through, it made me attached to the person. I needed validation from that person. I need to work harder for that person, even though this person has showed me many times that, they're not perfect. Mm-hmm. I've been exposed to so much, but it's like I had some type of attachment to that person that it broke me down. It had to break me down to find myself, to realize that it was toxic. It was an attachment that I had with that person that wasn't feeding my soul. Right. It wasn't feeding my purpose. It was tearing me down.
Did it lead to you feeling like you have to cut this person off?
Oh, yes.
Really?
It came to a point now, and even with me just finding myself and going through the things that I'm going through now, I didn't have that support that I expected from that person as well. So that was another thing that just broke me down, and I was just lost and confused and just making irrational decisions based off of, you really going through something, you don't know how to control your emotions, mm-hmm. so anything happens. Yeah. So it wasn't until I really had to, I had my moment of depression, mm-hmm. and I went through it by myself, and it wasn't until I had to sit down and I was near a life-threatening situation, mm-hmm. and I had to tell myself, yo, no.
That's it. No more.
That's it. You can't do it no more. When you come to a point where you feel like you're suffocating, you cannot breathe, you're in an environment with somebody that's just not stable, you have no choice, but you got to have that breakthrough. Right. I had to break through. I was just yeah, this isn't doing it for me no more. I'm going to have to figure out what's best for me because this that's going on is toxic, and there's no way that I'll be able to grow and be the person that I know I'm truly able to be and I want to be if I'm going to continue to entertain the situation. Right. It's no more entertaining.
That's real.
That's all it is. Entertainment.
When I think about toxic situations, because sometimes it's not the person that's toxic, it's the situation. Yes. And oftentimes what makes a situation toxic, like we said earlier, is really that level of expectation or need for validation based on someone else's experience. Mm-hmm. So I know for me, my dad passed, but my parents love them to death, I'm sure they also love me to death. Everyone knows I'm African. Foreigners, they just be having different types of expectations for their kids. Traditional. And especially being raised in American culture, being born in our culture, there's a real huge divide in our principles and what we want and what we believe. So I know for me growing up, I was like, out of my siblings, I was the good girl. I was like the smart girl. I was the one always getting awards, doing all the great stuff. And it's like, naturally, any kid growing up, getting that sense of validation from your parents of being proud of you, you become attached to that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then eventually I became older. I was the one to go to college. I was the one to graduate from college. And it was all like, yeah, praise, like, yeah, I got the smart daughter, blah, blah. But then after that, it was like based on their experiences, their principles was, okay, the next thing that'll make us proud is for you to just get married, sit down, and have some old African man kids and just not old African, but just like just get married. At this point, ain't nothing. I could have ran and become a president of America. It would have been like still been like, okay, so when are you getting married and when you're gonna? And as much as like I, of course, becoming an adult and having my own experiences, I did reach a point where I was sure of myself. Like, not necessarily knew what I wanted, but I knew that I wanted to do something. Like, I wasn't at that age. I wasn't the little girl where you could tell what to do anymore. You know what I'm saying? So when I reached that point and I realized that what I want to do or who I want to be didn't align with, I think, what would have made them proud.
Yeah.
It became this feeling of toxicness. Yeah. Because it's like, but I still want that validation from y'all. I still want, it's like, they still love you. Like, I get the love. I get all that. But I also want to get your validation. And it's like, that's toxic. That's toxic of me to want to feel like, and it also kind of, in a sense, made me start to have resentment against my parents, because it's like, I want your validation and I'm not getting that, so now you're a bad parent. You know what I'm saying? This is what I'm feeling. Like, my parents are African, I can't tell them this, but I was feeling it for sure. And it wasn't until I reached a point with myself where it's like, you cannot have both. You can't control that. So you have to understand that you can choose to be like, I'm going to walk through life the way I feel is true to me, but I have to let go of that need for their validation. That's what's making it toxic. And once I let go of that, it wasn't a conversation I had to have with my parents. I mean, we did have conversations where I had to let them know, like, multiple conversations. Until this day, we have those conversations where it's like, when they're telling me what their expectations is of me, my dad is no longer alive, but my mom, I'm able to respectfully be like, thank you, but no thanks. This is what I'm doing. Yes. And it's like, that alone, is still loving my mom, still having a great relationship with my mom, still living with my mom, I'm able to be more free. And it's toxic free now because of letting go of that validation. So I wanted to touch on that, because a lot of times we feel like when you feel toxic or when you see toxic, we feel like the result is necessarily cut. Yeah. And really what the toxicness is your attachment to the validation of the person. That's what's toxic. It's not the person that's toxic, because we're all walking beings with our own principles, our own values, and what we feel like we see things, how we see things, and what we think is perfect. And we're okay. It's okay to have that. Yeah. It's okay for my parents to feel like my proudest will be if my daughter get married, and that's it. That's okay. That's not bad. Like, it's not like she's saying I want my child to be alone for them. It took some time, but I had to realize it's because my mom loves me so much. So she feels like happiness and completeness will be just like getting married, and that's it. Yeah. And it's not that I don't want to get married, in case anybody looking to ask, but it's not, it's not something I want to force, and it's not something I definitely don't want to do for someone else's validation. I want to do it because it's the place that's true to me. So when we think toxic, don't always think it's the person. I think that's why toxicness has been overused and misused, because it's like we always think toxic is the person. No, toxic is your attachment.
Yeah, and to backtrack on what you said about, since you were younger, listening to how you were like growing up, it's actually the complete opposite for me. Because I'm the baby in my family, and all my older siblings, like, they were scholars, straight A's. Then I came around and I was so bad. I wanted to get right with everybody. I had all the bad grades. It was just like, I struggled because I was just different. That was just me, And with the validation thing, like, it came to a point where I misunderstood the love and the frustration that they were having with me. So a lot of people do know I did go through a phase back when I was in high school where I was having seizures. And it was really, really, really bad. Like, it almost got to a point where, like, I couldn't even, like, graduate from high school because I was missing so many days. I was passing out in the middle of the floor in the high school, in the hallway. And it was just so much. But even, like, before those series of events, I still was struggling in school. And I wasn't that scholar student that my parents wanted me to be. And I wasn't the good daughter and all that. But I still had some type of emotional attachment with my father. So like with him, he was just like, all right, well, why can't you just do this? And now you got this. And it was always like this and this and this. You got this problem, you got that problem, you got this problem, you got that problem. And it was just a check. Just tallying up everything, all the problems that I had. And I misunderstood that because I'm just like, damn, I'm going through these things right now. And this is why I feel like this was just toxic, because instead of just being there for your child that's going through the stuff, instead you're showing a lack of like frustration.
Yeah, because
and
it's not what
love.
you want it to be.
It's not support the way that I need it to be. So like it's not even about wanting it. It's I need that. Being a child and being the youngest and seeing your your siblings like grow up and prosper and do all the things that they want to achieve, and then being the child that's like the left behind. You're like you're sick and you're going through all these things, and it's just like, okay, well my parents are just waiting on me to just get my things together. It just so happens like I didn't even go to college either. Like I just went straight into being an entrepreneur because I knew that just wasn't for me.
Right.
And my parents again was just like, no. Like my dad had said to my face, like, if you don't go to school, no support. There's no argument about it. Nothing. Like you don't go to school, you can't get no. And that support was the love also, was the affection also, all that.
It's like
cut off.
But you know what it is? As harsh as it may have felt like and sounded, when I think about like having multiple kids, and I'm thinking about it not just in from a space of a parent, we have to be like this in all our relationships. We have to learn, like I always said, like with I have 3 sisters, and we are all so different.
Yes.
And I think my dad, where he struggled with in the beginning, was like he was my older sister was like the real laid back to herself, introverted and just like quiet. I was the loud, bold.
Oh yeah,
I need the attention. And I feel this, and I the hothead.
Yes.
And then my little sister was usually how the youngest are, and it's because they're trying to find their space. She was the rebellious one.
Oh, yeah.
So she was putting him through some stuff, running away, courthouse, smoking weed. Like my dad had to experience it all, and I felt like he was always like, I think it hit him for a loop because it was like with my older sister being the more reserved one, it's like, oh, just put her in the corner. She's not gonna talk too much. She's just, and it's like with me being the loud bold one, it was like, okay, hold up, okay, let me get it adjusted to having to deal with this child this certain way, and it's like you have to adjust your expectations based on the people you're dealing with. And I don't, once again, it's because we feel like we can be one-dimensional and just, and that's also my toxic trait. It's like I felt like I only wanted to deal with people according to one track minded with how I deal with people. But as I started to grow and bring in new relationships, I realized, okay, it was certain friends that I could joke with a certain way and be aggressive and be like, F your feelings, da da da. And then there were certain friends I had to be more soft with, more this. And and it was like, oh my God, like why do I, like, at some points I didn't want to do that. It's like one of the things is like I attract very emotional people. I am not an emotional person. I'm emotional, I'm sensitive, but in how I function, it's not from a place of emotion. I function from a place of logic, which often makes me seem very cutthroat and unemotional. Everything is really black and white for me. Is this? So I would get really frustrated with the emotional people that I have to deal with, because it's like, why do I have to dumb everything down for you? In a sense of, not in an insulting way, but like, instead of like naturally, it's for me to be like, no, you're stupid. Like, and for me, it's not that I'm insulting. It's like, I gotta tell you quick throat what's the problem. And when I do that, it's like,
yeah.
And it's like, oh my God, what I actually meant is da-da-da. But in reality, that is a responsibility of ours, because what you don't want to do, as much as we're so passionate about getting our point across, you don't ever, ever, ever want it to be misconstrued.
Yeah.
Your intent to be misconstrued.
Yeah.
And that was a toxic trait of mine and a situation that I had to realize, because oftentimes I could say something till my face turned blue. But if someone is receiving it the wrong way, what was the point? Like, the point of an interaction, the point of a conversation, the point of a relationship is for what you're trying to convey to be taken. Forget what you're saying. Is it being taken? If I'm saying you're pretty and you're hearing I'm ugly, does it matter that I said you're pretty? So a lot of times the way we say things, the message is sometimes important than how you want to say it.
Yeah.
So I had to realize to lose that battle.
Yeah.
I gotta stop being tied to how I want to say it, because that's who I am. I have to be more tied to what I want to be said, what the message is. I want them to receive that. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times in situations where I really love someone, it's like I want them to know how I feel and I want them to understand me, but the way I was saying it made them not receive it that way.
Yeah.
And that's toxic. We gotta learn that we have to adjust according to relationships. It's hard.
Even in relationships, like, I'm very bold, I'm really blunt, I go straight to the point, and if you don't get it, that's your business.
Yeah.
And that's how I went about it.
Sit in that corner and figure it out.
Because I don't have the time, I don't have the day, I don't have the energy for it. And so you ready to figure that out, then you let me know.
Right.
And then I had to realize, no. You don't go about it like that. These people actually have feelings.
Right.
These people are just like you. We're all human.
Mm-hmm.
And for you to feel like, since you're able to handle that type of conversation, that type of tone of voice, doesn't mean that somebody else can.
Right. You
have to be able to it has to be a balance. You got to meet somebody halfway.
Yeah.
If you're in a relationship with somebody, or just a friendship, or somebody that you're affectionate with, like, you got to meet somebody halfway.
Right.
It's not about you. It's not just about you.
You know what made me realize that and also feel bad, and I still do it. I'm a work in progress. But oftentimes that's able to, usually, like, when I say what I say and I know my intention behind it, it's like, I don't care how you feel, you figure it out. I said what I said. But when you get that compassion the other way around, like when you are the bad guy, like I've had relationships, my romantic relationships and even friendships where I was the bad guy, but they still came, or not even the bad guy, I was wrong. Mm-hmm. And instead of them saying, no, I said what you know what? Not that I was wrong. They delivered something in a way that hurt me when the shoe was on the other foot.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And I was in a relationship, and he said something that hurt me, but it's clearly not. The intent wasn't to hurt me. It was like, I'm feeling this way. You figure it out. They never left me for over a day to sit and figure it out by myself. Instantaneously, it'll be like, hey, I know that I said this to you. I didn't mean it this way. I'm sorry. And will approach me from it, and I'm like, it felt so good to get that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I gotta start giving that to people too.
You got a taste of your own medicine, but then the way that person handled the situation was completely different from how you would handle it.
And
so
it felt good. Wow, like someone, like, you didn't owe me that. Just like I be feeling like I ain't owe nobody. Like I know how I meant it, and I said what I said. You go pat your own wounds and figure out what I really meant.
It makes you look at how you react to a lot of things.
Right.
It humbles you.
Yes.
It humbled me.
It does.
I've had a situation where this person didn't have nothing. They didn't have no business speaking to me ever again. I would have been cool with that.
Yeah, right. Like,
I would have been cool.
I'm like once something happens and it's like, it is what it is.
Right,
it's like,
bye.
That's cut off. I want to speak on this time, and I even want to give this person a shout out. One of my close friends, one of my close guy friends, his name is Bradley, and I was talking to one of my friends about this, where growing up, I used to feel like I wouldn't really build friendships from a true place. I would be a people's pleaser. Mm-hmm. Like, I feel like the only people who really knew me were my siblings at home. But when it came to starting school, I just always wanted to be liked. So I would kind of adjust myself according to whoever I'm trying to befriend. And because of that, I never really had conflicts with friends. I never had real moments and because conflict is also things that happen when a relationship is growing and really building its foundation. And I realized, like, I never had that because I was never being true to myself. It's not that I was being fake, but I would be a people pleaser. So I would be like, okay, I'll just be the nice girl, the quiet girl. People would describe me as that. And if you ask my sisters at home, what? No, that's not her.
Yeah.
So the first time, and he was the first friend, and I met him in college. So I'm like 19. One day, I was already in my feelings, and we were in a very intimate space. Like we were on vacation together. It was like we were on a service trip with all of our some of our students. So it became a point, you know, college. And when you're in high school and middle school and stuff like that, it's like you are only with your friends for a certain amount of time. So you're able to fake the funk as long for that amount of time. Like after 3 o'clock, no, I was not the friend that was trying to go spend the night at your house. Don't invite me to your sleepover, because at home was the time I could be myself. I had my cousins who knew who I was, and my siblings who knew that was my safe space. So I knew how to kind of balance it. But once I got to college, I lived on campus. There was no divide. I'm in class with y'all, and then I gotta come back in the dorms with y'all. So that's when people really started seeing my other side. Like my true self was forced to show more. So me and him got into a huge argument, and people would not believe this, because just like me, he is also the person that a lot of people are like, oh, just a nice friendly guy, and it's like, no, he just adjusts himself according to people, because there's a wall to not let people in. And we got into it, and when I say we got into it, I'll say one thing. Growing up, I don't take words serious, which means it's very easy for me to spew words. Because it's like, I'll say something so hurtful to you, and the next minute I expect you to just get over it, because it's like, I don't take it serious.
So
like,
relatable.
So I went in. I was calling him all kinds of bitches. He's calling, like, everyone was in, like, our two other friends who were in the room were just both like
shook.
And and of course I was heated in the moment, because it was just so much going on, and I was just frustrated, and I just blacked out on him. And of course afterwards, when I went my own way and I sat down, I felt bad, but instantly after feeling bad, I was like, well, it's what it is. That friendship is over. Like, so I was like, you know, I'm not gonna go, my pride is out. I'm not gonna go back and apologize. I already said what I said. It's over. The next day, every day I would ask him, he would give me his MP3 player to listen to. So we were on a service trip, so the next day everyone has to come down to breakfast. So I'm just like, lost a friend. It is what it is. I'm sitting in the corner. I didn't have no intentions on speaking. I wasn't mad no more. I did feel bad about what happened, but it was like, I'm so stubborn in my ways. No, it is what it is. Yeah. Sitting in my own corner alone, blah, blah, blah. Next thing you know, he walks up to me, hands me his MP3 player, and just walks away. And without even saying anything, without even me having to apologize or him having to apologize, that sense of grace was like, I want to feel that in all of my friendships. And that's the marker I started to use on the relationships I expect of people, and vice versa I want to give to people, because I'm like, he didn't have to do that.
Yes.
And I had no intentions on doing that. Like, even knowing that I was wrong, it was like, I'm not going to apologize. Yeah. So I think of that moment. Recently, that moment was brought into my attention. I think about that because I'm also having issues in friendships and relationships, and I'm like, remembering that compassion is like, I want to give that to people too. At least give it a chance. There's a difference when a relationship is just over. Like, friendship's over. We just done. Like, we tried to revive it. It ain't there. But sometimes it is there. Yeah. It's just a different approach we got to take.
And it's all about timing too.
Yeah.
You got to go through things with people. And I learned that too. Like, don't expect, for this person to just stay in your life forever and y'all have no problem, y'all not beefing, and this to be the best of friends. Like, no, y'all gonna go through some real stuff. Mm-hmm. Y'all gonna figure out if y'all really meant to be in each other's lives or not. And if you guys get through it, then it's meant to be. If not, then it's not. But it's gonna come, and you're gonna have to be prepared for that. Even if you're not prepared, you gotta be mature enough to go through the process and understanding whether or not it's meant to be with you, if you guys are meant to be friends, or to be in a relationship where you guys are not. Right. And I had to learn that with my best friend. Mm-hmm. And we're the closest we've ever been. And we have been through a lot since freshman year of high school. We've been through so much with each other, and it wasn't, now can nothing tear us apart, because we had to go through those moments. Yeah. And she was a part of those moments where I myself was like, you friends with her, why? I'm not friends with her, so why are you friends with her? She went through that phase with me also. Yeah. She went through the phase of me being sick. Like, this girl has really been through a lot with me. Even back to when I was in high school and having my seizures, she was in the hallway with me one of those times, called the ambulance, everybody came out, and she held me down. We went through so many experiences, deaths and everything together, and now I'm just like, that's another situation. Like, it really humbled me. Yeah. It's not just about me no more. Yeah. It's not only my feelings, it's her feelings also.
Absolutely.
So much.
Yeah, I feel like there's that perspective, but there's this fine line, which I'm still trying to figure out how to balance. How do you know when to adjust or yourself to be like, okay, you got to kind of soften up and understand the other person's perspective, this, and how do you also have that other side where it's like, no, have your expectations, this is who I am, this is not it. And I struggle with that because it's like, I am hot-headed in the moment. I am impulsive. I am definitely like, how I feel is how I feel in the moment, and I'm going to say whatever I say, but I am also a person that can go and sit with myself, and then I reflect, and if I reflect on something long enough, like literally within minutes, I'm able to be like, oh, I understand that person's perspective. And that quality of me has, yes, saved friendships, but it also kept me in the wrong things for too long as well. Because it's like, I did that too much. Like, well, I could understand why they're just like this. Oh, she has family issues, so yeah, this is why she talks to me like that. So I'm gonna whatever, and being the one to have to come and patch things up. So I had situations, and I'm in a situation now where it's like, the way someone handled me, although I do understand why, like what their issue was, not with me, but where their pain is coming from, the way they handled me was an expectation of mine that was like, like for example with me, I do get, yeah, everyone's not confrontational, everyone is not able to express themselves, everyone is not going to be as in your face like how I am. And my in your face is not to be confrontational, it's to be like, if I have a problem with you, I love a sense of honesty. I like it in return too. I'm not one of them people that could dish it and can't take it. I love the people who are able to tell me my shit to my face, and I'm going to tell you, and we're going to go back and forth. I respect that. But that person is not like that. However, the way this person decided to show me that they had an issue was when I reached out, not knowing that there was an issue, like, hey, yo, what are you doing for your birthday? She goes, oh, I found out what I was doing for my birthday, but I think it's best that you don't come.
Oh, that's
almost like... And for me, it's like, I'd rather you sit in my face and call me all kinds of bitches because you mad than to do passive aggressive behavior from an ill place. Because it's like, if I'm mad at you, and if someone's mad at you and they be like, now I want to hurt you. So instead of telling you I'm mad at you because what you did hurt my feelings, now I'm be like, you're not invited to my party. I mean, first of all, it sounds childish. But it was like, you was telling me that was not to, like, you could have used that moment to tell me, hey, I have an issue with you.
Right.
Don't use that moment to be malicious. You know what I'm saying? Even if you say, hey, I have an issue with you and I feel like you did this and it hurt my feelings, so maybe we shouldn't, like, maybe you shouldn't come to my party because tell me a reason first, but don't use that moment to be like hot in your face.
Yeah.
And that is a part of me that I'm not willing to fold for nobody. Because you're not going to get that from me. You might get aggressive, in your face, might say some mean things, not mean things, but blunt things. Be very honest where you might not be able to receive it, but what you're not going to get is a place of passive aggressiveness and malice or envy or like now, like, you know, and I say this a lot of times, for me, it's important for me to speak on how I feel because people who are comfortable with harboring things, it becomes, no one is beyond becoming an envious person. Right. No one is beyond having, that's a human trait. But the way those type of negative emotions are able to grow are in places where people harbor stuff. So it's like, I could be mad at you because you slept with my man. That's bad, right? You're wrong. You slept with my man, right? However, you're my friend, you slept with my man. You're dead wrong. But if I don't bring it to your attention and show you that I'm mad and I just sit here and harbor it, it's like now when you come in, oh, she look ugly, like she. Now everything you do, oh, she posting her Mogul Mondays, like it'll like I'm not supporting, I'm not gonna like it. That's envy now. Now you're wrong.
And you see the energy?
Yeah, the energy changes now. So it's like everything this person do, there's like and I notice females have a tendency in being comfortable in that type of space with relationships with each other. I've seen friendships where it's like, yeah, you might be right on why you were initially mad, but now you're starting to be an envious person. That's not a good spirit to be in. That's not a good energy, regardless of what that person did to you. I'd rather say to your face, you did this to me and I don't like it, I don't want to be your friend no more, than to harbor it and then start to have underlying emotions that grow based on that one feeling. Yes. So for me, it's like, I'm impulsive because it's like, once I say it, it's out there. There's nothing else that's going to harbor and also create other negative emotions. Not even just about it hurting the person, because it don't matter. If you sleep with my man, I don't care what happens to you. But that ricochets, when you become an envious person, no great is going to come in your life.
Right. And you know, on my Mobile Monday also, like, I did mention being friends with people that do that. It might not be necessarily towards you, but if somebody's comfortable enough to speak about somebody else in your presence, that's negative energy as well. That is so it's draining without you even realizing that it's draining.
You know, you said something in that Mogul Monday video, because it was like, it's something that I've been trying to be more conscious of, and a friend made me realize that because she's being more conscious of it. A lot of times the relationships that we create, when you create a relationship with someone who has a toxic energy, I want to eliminate it, there being a such thing as a toxic person.
Yeah.
No one, God didn't, it's like saying, oh, a girl, but like toxic is not a trait that you're born with.
A toxic habit.
Energy, we are walking spirits, that is a part of us. Toxicness is something that could be a part of you based on what your mental space is and what you're going through. But there's no such thing as a toxic person. But when you befriend or you're in a relationship with someone who has a toxic energy, I don't care how good of a person you try to be, in order to maintain that relationship, you also have to become toxic. So I knew I had like a friend who I felt like, just in general, she was a negative, pessimistic person, just with herself. So it wasn't like intentional to people. Even when it came to talking about herself, everything was just worst case scenario. Oh, my life is bad. This person. And because she was that type of person, or she had that type of energy within her, when it came to having girl time moment or just talking, she always wanted to talk about people. But it's in the way that you do it. Like me, not to say that was great, but I could talk about someone and it was because I'm like being funny. Oh, that's juicy, that's this. But it was like every interaction I had with this person, it was always like, okay, we got to talk about people. And it was like, it became the foundation of our friendship. It was like, okay, I don't have anything else to do with this girl. We don't have nothing else in common. I mean, I don't look at my life negative. So now our means of friendship is this, let's talk about people. You know what I'm saying? And it became a point where, like, after I'll leave her, I'll feel like drained, because I'm like, this is not me. Like, I like to talk about, like, you know, it's like I had to eliminate that friendship to avoid that. So it's like, that's another form of toxicness. Like when someone has a toxic energy, when you're in it with them, you also have to be toxic. You might not want to be, you might not even be conscious of it. Just as well as the people you lay with, which is even worse.
Yes.
The person you're in a relationship with,
it's even worse. Yeah.
When they are toxic, like I had to realize this. I had to end a relationship because the person was so loving of me. This is one person. You know how people be like, I love you so much, I'll kill, or I'll die for you, or I'll kill for you.
With that.
Not like I'm saying the figurative speech when someone says that and it's just like, oh, whatever. This is one person I felt like, yo, this person will really has my back. Like really has my back, really has good intentions when it comes to me, and really loves me genuinely. However, this person also didn't love themselves that much, and also was not in a good space with themselves. And how you know that is about what they're doing for themselves. Like, yeah, you'll jump out the window for me, or if I need you, you're supporting me, you're doing this. But what are you doing to support yourself? What do you like? How people love? A lot of times when people don't have the love for themselves, they project it onto other people. But at the end of the day, if it don't start, and it's aggressive. But at the end of the day, if they don't have it for themselves, it starts there. How people love themselves, it starts there. So dating insecure people, or dating people who are in a negative space about themselves, you can't, in a sense, I had to reach a point where it's like, when I started to have more expectations for the relationship, it's like, how can you want someone to want the best for the relationship before they want the best for themselves?
Yes.
And I'm like, he's toxic to himself. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I feel like he loves me, but it's like, it's almost like the reason for the love for you, or the reason for the overly,
he's yearning for
it's because it's a way to feel like they're getting it somehow, and it's like, that's not how life works, baby.
At all.
It don't. Like, that's the reality check. You can be so great to people, you can love someone so much. If you're not great to yourself, it shows. It shows, and it carries within your spirit. You cannot substitute the love you're supposed to have for yourself with the love you have for someone else. That's not a substitute. You have to have both simultaneously. And if one lacks, the other one can't have it.
I firmly believe in when they say, like, you cannot get into no relationship with anybody, you cannot love anybody the way that you want if you don't do it for yourself.
Right.
If you don't love yourself, there's no way that you will be able to be in a healthy relationship. Whether that's a friendship or a romantic relationship.
And people feel it. People feel it. I had a friend who was like that. And it's also very overly protective of me and very just overly like, I love you, I'll do whatever for you. Like, come on, when you need this, always quick to run and be there for me. And you see in the physical form, like project her love for me in a physical form. Like, and I'm like, okay, this is what a friend should be. She's loyal, she's this. But it was like there was a certain level of pessimism and negativity that she had about herself that is like, physically I was like, okay, she's being a good friend, but emotionally there was always this weird toxic feeling when it came to her, almost to the point where it was like I was like kind of trying to detach from it, like, because it didn't feel like, not because it was too much, but you know when something is not from a pure place. That's why I always say, like, when you start dating somebody or you talking to someone, when they be quick to say I love you, or like, and you can feel when it's not from a place of, not that they're lying, because it's not that they're lying, but it's like their love is coming. It's a motive behind it, and the motive is to feel like they want to love themselves, and it don't feel authentic. You know what I'm saying? And I know you were saying like you're a spiritual person. I'm big on. I had to come to a point where I realized, just like when you're about to get a cold, the symptoms you get, right? It's the symptoms that make you notice the sickness. So like before you realize I have a cold, I might have a stuffy nose. Yeah. I might be coughing. I might have a lot of mucus in my chest, and that's when I be like, oh, I have a cold. What we fail to realize is when it comes to our feelings and our intuition, those are the symptoms to show us something is wrong. Yes. And a lot of times I feel like we need to get the diagnose. Like we need to get we need to see the act or what's wrong before we acknowledge the symptoms. Yes. So it's like, oh, I could have a bad energy about you, but it's like, no, I gotta wait till you stab me in the back. Or I gotta wait to see that you are like, we need confirmation for our feelings, and honestly, our feelings is the number one indicator. And sometimes you don't gotta wait for the betrayal to trust the feeling. Yes. You don't have to wait for the betrayal. You don't have to wait for the bomb or the backstab to acknowledge the feeling first. So I'm learning that, because it's like it eats you up when you always have this feeling, but there's no words to it, and you feel like you didn't validate it, and then something happened, and like, I always knew, like, it was something about you, like, and I know, and you beat yourself up. So it's like, we do have to learn how to do that more often.
And when I've decided to really take my spirituality, like, into another level, I had to tell myself, no, you don't need the heartbreak. You don't need to keep going at it until you're finally heartbroken. Right. You don't need to keep going at it until you're betrayed. You feel it, that's it. Like, that's it. That's another thing also. Like, you have to... I went through a very crazy spiritual awakening. And in the mix of all of it, like, it was just so many signs and actions that was really in my face. And it was right there, clear cut, like there was no question about it. And it was a challenge for me. But I tested myself and I went through it, and I'm like, you know what? I see all the things in front of me. I got all the hints. I'm not going to move forward with it. Yeah. Ever since I did that, Lord. You want to talk about faith? You want to talk about trusting your gut and really just going to how you feel? I haven't been proven wrong since.
I love it. So I just want you to leave us on. Let's leave the listeners on something when it comes to acknowledging toxicness. Or acknowledging or trying to release toxic, whether it's within you or within a relationship that you have. What are some of the steps that you take to kind of acknowledge and, I guess, heal yourself of that?
Accepting it. You gotta accept it. You gotta acknowledge it. That's the first step before anything else. And you gotta just be in tune with how you feel and just come to a conclusion, like, is it worth it? Do I need this? It's just a whole bunch of questions. Like, even though it's helpful for me, write a list of questions down and answer each one whenever you go through something. Check it off. Answer yourself. Go through it by yourself, because at the end of the day, that's the only way that you'll be able to get through the things that you're going through. Right. You gotta have your own conversations with yourself. Absolutely. Then you'll be able to be like, okay, this is it, this is not it, this is not it. You need to come up with, you don't need nobody to give you the answers. You got the answers in front of you, just figure it out.
Right.
gotta stick to yourself.
I love it. I love it. I'll leave y'all on 2020. My theme, or I feel like my lesson is, I feel like not even my lesson, I feel like what the theme is in general of 2020, this is going to be the year that your life is going to be a reflection of who you are internally, what you feel internally, how you feel about yourself internally. And that has been my testimony since January. Like, I literally got so many blessings, and the reason, there was really no reason for it besides the fact that I was really consciously waking up every day like I deserve the best, and clearing myself of all the negative energy, all the negative spirits, all the negative thoughts I had of myself, all the negativity I've had around me. And life has just been producing. God has just been producing. And I'm like, now that I'm realizing this, I'm becoming very critical of how I think, how I move, the words I continuously speak verbally or even in my own mind about myself, about others. I'm so conscious of that, because it's like sometimes that is the reason for the stagnancy. Sometimes that is the reason why life is not going well for you. Sometimes that is the reason for the depression. Sometimes that is the reason why life is just not good. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's you. And it's like, as harsh as that sound, it's also powerful that you know that the control is in your hand.
Yes.
To know that, I could really just wake up and think different and life will be different. I like that. I don't like waiting for my happiness for anybody.
Take the initiative.
I take the initiative. So I would just leave y'all with that. Cocoa Simone, thank you so much for coming on. And this is the Voice of Reason. See you in the next episode. I'm Baby Oprah. Voice of Reason. Voice of Reason. How y'all doing out here tonight?